Welcome to a new episode of Sustainability Forward, our podcast on all issues related to sustainability. My name is Wrishi, and with me is my co-host, Carmine. This episode, at least at the time of recording, is happening at a very interesting time, as this coincides with the COP16 Biodiversity Summit, which is currently happening in Colombia. And not only is it interesting from a timing perspective, but also Colombia being a very rich country in terms of biodiversity. It's a very interesting place for this summit. Carmine, welcome. Anything to add on that?
Thank you, Rishi, and pleasure to be today with you. Yes, so most of us, we know what COP is for whatever is around climate change and reducing emission and limiting global warming. But COP16, that's happening, as you said, in this week in Colombia and Cali, is all about preserving world's biodiversity. So ensuring the survival of ecosystems and species that make life on Earth possible. I just wanted to give you a data point that I was reading from the WWF 2024 Living Planet Report. Because in this kind of biannual report, what is really striking is that the monitored whitefly populations has declined by an average of 73%, so 73% since 1970. And this year report also reveals that the Earth stands on the verge of a tipping point for tropical forests and coral reefs. And this could have severe consequences for people and nature everywhere. So we are starting from this kind of data that is quite impressive. So what's happening in Cali? So we have 200 countries that will gather there to discuss the urgent state of biodiversity. This is a follow-up from the Montreal Agreement from 2022. So the COP on biodiversity happens every 2 years. They set 23 ambitious goals for conserving nature by the end of the decade. So this update will center on whether countries are actively following through these commitments through what they call the national biodiversity strategies and action plans. So looking forward to see what would be the discussion, what would be the outcome of this COP66.
Excellent. Excellent. We actually have an episode today that is quite connected to the topic of biodiversity, but it also brings together a couple of other very relevant topics. And to discuss that, we actually have a very special guest with us. We always enjoy doing these guest podcasts. But before we launch into it, Carmine, would you welcome our guest for the episode today?
Sure. With enormous pleasure, we introduce Maurizio Pitzolu. Maurizio began working in the energy sector in 2005 as a project manager in various countries around the world, both in oil and gas and renewables, and then joined RP Global Italy in 2023. In RP, he is responsible for development of renewable projects group in Sardinia, the regions from which he comes and he loves, and to which he decided to bring his technical managerial background to passionately contribute to the development of the renewable energy sector and of the ecological transition of the island. Since early 2024, he has been appointed also as a regional delegate of Italia Solare for Sardinia. Italia Solare is the Italian Association of Solar Energy Producers. He's also a beekeeper and founder of beekeeping community called Asphodel, with the mission of protecting the bees and their niche products from the cannibalization of the unfair market competition. So Maurizio, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Rishi. Thank you very much, Carmine, for this invitation. I'm very happy to be with you today.
No, we are thankful, Maurizio, you are here with us in this episode. It's the beekeeping part of your experience that is really sweet for us as a topic. So maybe we can start off by trying to understand from you Why bees are so important, especially when we think about sustainability, and why are we so dependent on bees as an ecosystem?
Yes, sure. People normally believe it's a sentence of Einstein related to the importance of bees in the planet. In reality, it's not Einstein phrase sentence, but it's somebody else. We don't know who, but it's for sure something very, very, very true. This sentence says that if bees will disappear from the heart, human being, the heart will have only 4 years remaining living in this planet. Maybe it's not 4 years, maybe it's something more. We don't know, but there is something sure. Without bees, people on the planet cannot survive. And why is that? Yeah, because bees are the ring of connection among the uh, majority of plants. Mainly their job is going from flower to flower, like other pollinators, of course, but they are the major, the most common pollinators in the heart, and they go from flower to flower to take their sweet honey and to take their pollen for their survival. But in the meantime, they are also pollinating, which means that they are also contributing to the reproduction of most of the plants. It's calculated, somebody estimated that around 70% of what we eat is given by the pollination, the work, the hard work of the bees. Of course, they do it because of their nature, but we all take advantage of this incredible job. There are also other estimations, other numbers that are a bit different from country to country, but still we are talking about billions of euros or dollars. The value that this incredible work that is being performed by bees is giving to the human being in this planet. Of course, it's not something that we estimate in reality because we don't pay the bees, but there is an incredible job that if bees will not do, we should do. There are some cases already in some parts of the heart where bees are declining, and this job is done by human beings. So there are people like in China that are going by hand and pollinating one by one the flowers.
Wow.
This is incredible if you see this. And this is what is happening because of the declining of the number of bees.
And Maurizio, why this is happening? What are the challenges?
Well, this is happening because bees are declining. They are dying mainly, and they are dying for many reasons. Of course, the most important reason is due to, we say, man in various senses. The first reason, for example, here in Europe, we have a bee which is the Ligustica kind of bee, which is the species of our bee. Also called Italian bee, which is one of the most productive of honey and other products. And this bee has been attacked already 40 years ago by an acarus, which is called Varroa destructor in Latin. And is an acarus that was present already endemically in the bees in China, in Asia. 40 years ago, these acarus came over to Europe, of course, caused by globalization. And this varroa started to attack the families of bees here. And of course, these bees weren't prepared to these acarus. So they started dying at an incredible rate. And man tried to find out a solution for this, of course. It was 83, 84, 1984. And we started with chemicals, trying to battle these acarus. But of course, it happened the opposite. So meaning that the acarose is still there, is much bigger, and we are fighting with this year by year, just reducing the number of bees. So every year we have to remake our families, our stock of families from scratch, because the family of bees of the year we have in production normally die. This doesn't happen in our company, in our community, let's say, but it happens in most common beekeeping companies, because most people use still chemicals instead of using biological remedies, which we do. And this is making the life of the bees very, very hard. This is the first reason. Another reason, of course, is given by the climate change. Climate change is affecting a lot also the life of the bees, because every day we have different, every year we have different climate. So it's nearly impossible to plan how to work with the bees. What we had before, for example, that was blooming in February, March, now is blooming in January, for example. But sometimes it happens that after January sunshine, we have also freezing temperatures, and so the flowers are freezing. So we have plants that are supposed to be productive, and they're not producing anymore because of these frozen temperatures in unexpected times. There are also other reasons in terms, again, of climate change. For example, rains that are not anymore so frequent like in the past. We had, for example, here in Sardinia, last year, 70 days of no rain. And this means that plants are not getting water and they're not blooming. So of course there is not nectar on the flowers, and bees cannot eat. So it's a complete disaster that one cause after the other are reducing the number of bees and making the life of beekeepers every year harder.
And of course, all of it probably translates into commercial challenges for the beekeepers also. Yeah. In preparation for this discussion, we obviously talked about the concept of BeeVoltaic as probably a commercial lever for to improve, the situation of beekeepers. Would you talk a little bit about what it is, how could it solve some of these challenges for beekeepers?
Yeah, sure. As you said, one of the most difficult things for beekeepers today is the situation of the market, because being unpredictable production is also very difficult to find a market and to follow with the furnitures. And also it's very, very hard to keep producing in a, let's say, planned way. So we have been thinking about solutions to this problem, and one of these solutions is for sure trying to help beekeepers to have a kind of field where the beekeeper could produce without depending too much on the external climate conditions. Of course, being completely independent is impossible, but trying to mitigate the effects of the climate change for beekeepers can be done. Is costly, is expensive, but there are solutions. One of these solutions is BeeVoltaic, or BeeVoltaic, we say that in Italian, which is a solution that starts to become more common, at least in terms of development in the engineering phase, because some developer of renewable energy is starting to understand that also from this lack of market of production, there could be also some potential for rising markets, because honey the true honey and the true pollen, for example, and the true bee wax are still very, very important products that human beings are consuming, and the price is still increasing. But producing these kind of products is, as I said, is hard, and can be done if we find this kind of solutions. What is a BeeVoltaic or BeeVoltaic? Well, mainly is a solution that puts together the production of renewable energy through photovoltaic plants with the agricultural part, meaning that in a plant where you put photovoltaic panels, you can also add pollination plants that can help the production of this kind of plants itself.
And Maurizio, this is very similar to the concept of agrivoltaic, correct me if I'm wrong, but applied to the beekeeping.
Yes,
right?
Yes, sure. It is actually is a subsystem inside the agrivoltaic system. Agrivoltaic is the term of biggest,
Yes.
let's say, the big system that puts together photovoltaic production with agricultural system, and the BeeVoltaic is just a subsystem that can work in this kind of subject.
Yeah, and actually, as we are recording this episode, I'm in the south of France traveling. I see also here that this region of wine, a few applications of this agrivoltaic. So it's actually something quite common that's starting to happen now. But I think what you're referring to, the BeeVoltaic, is also very interesting application for this specific problem.
That there are not existing yet, at least that I know. There are some examples of BeeVoltaic, but in Spain, for example, also in the US. But it is not a true BeeVoltaic. It's a system. It's a location where beekeepers put their bees, and there are producers of electricity with photovoltaic plants that are in the same location. This is also working, and this is an important cooperation between the two systems, because the bees are still working on that place and producing biodiversity and helping to, for example, the growing of plants below the panels, which are helping a lot to the decrease of temperature of the panels below, increasing so the productivity of the panels itself. But this is not really exactly the same thing, because for BeeVoltaic, you need a distribution of panels which is less massive. So you have a distance between the panels which is 5.5, 6, 7 meters, because this gives space also to cultivation between the lines of the panels, and this gives let's say food for the bees. So there is a cooperation between the two systems in this case, which is also a big advantage for bees and not only for panel. For example, one important aspect of this BeeVoltaic system is that they can protect the panels. They can protect from heavy rains the plants, because one problem that we have, for example, for our plants is that when there are heavy rains, the flowers fall down in the soil, and so of course they are not productive anymore. But with this protection from rains, you can still have your flowers on the plant, and bees can go and pollinate them and take the honey from it. Also, an important cooperation between the two systems is that normally in a BeeVoltaic, you also put irrigation systems, which is fundamental for places like Sardinia, arid places where there is no water anymore. And the absence of rain is, as I said before, is putting at risk the survival of bees. So having irrigation systems guarantees the life of the plants and the life of the bees. Also, you have fences around the plant, and the fences are protecting the hives, the beehives, from thieves, for example, or from other risks like fires, which are one of the main risks for beekeepers. And the last but not least, I would say, because there are also other things, but we don't have time to talk about all of them. There is the protection against winds. Wind is an enemy for bees. First of all, because the wind is, of course, a problem for them when they try to fly, but also because the wind dries up the flowers. So if you have even a good blooming, if you have a strong wind, the nectar is drying up very fast. So even there are flowers, bees are not taking any nectar out of it. Well, in an agrivoltaic plant, normally the wind is not, at least in the inner part of the plant, is not affecting the plants themselves. So you don't have the effect, the negative effect of the wind, and the bees can fly easily and still find nectar in the flowers. So there is a big potential to increase both the production of the bees and also help them to survive from any accident or any climate adverse condition.
Thank you, Maurizio. I think that's been quite interesting as I was thinking on how this actually happens, seeing all these bees flying around. But what's your vision then? How this will happen? What's your hope for this to happen in the future? How do you see this happening?
Well, it's a very good question. It's not easy. I see a lot of difficulties for this kind of plans to be designed and realized, because of course to demonstrate the economical advantages of this system is difficult. So you have first to design a pilot case, then to get the results and demonstrate the advantages are there. And today, in the beekeeping sector, there is no money. Beekeeping is the most poor subsector of the agricultural sector, which is already the most poor sector in the world, I would say. So it's very hard to find finance. It's very hard to find somebody that believes on this kind of projects. And I see that the only way to pass to the let's say to the pilot phase or the design phase and building phase of this kind of plants, it can happen only if we find governments that are financing pilot cases. There are some states, for example, Denmark, that are believing on this kind of technology, and they are trying to invest on those. But of course, they need to find places where to do so. Because in Denmark it's not actually probably the case for a well-performing beekeeping business. They came over here in Sardinia, for example, to try to make this kind of plans, but they are finding a lot of resistance, and this is not due to particular reasons, only because oil and gas is still very strong, in particular here in Sardinia, and of course pushing forward the day when renewable energies in general and photovoltaic or agrivoltaic will become, let's say, available, is the target for these industries. So now we are seeing a lot of regulations that are trying to ban the possibility of making new plants here in Sardinia, at least, both agrivoltaic or wind projects. And I'll say that it's very hard. Probably in other parts of Italy, it can be performed easily, much easily. So I think the most important thing is that we start talking about these kind of solutions, and we find people that can be interested to this and wants to invest in pilot projects, and then of course after in big plans, because the biggest the plant, the biggest also the possibility of making them sustainable. Of course, economically sustainable, of course. Of course, it's important to find the right plants, because not all honeys have the same price into the market. For example, here in Sardinia, we have a very high price value for rosemary honeys or strawberry tree honeys, or other like blackberries. So investing on this kind of plants can help the economical sustainability of BeeVoltaics. But we need time, we need projects, we need people involved, we need a good spirit behind it.
Right. So any last questions, Carmine, for Maurizio?
Yes, and Maurizio, why don't you talk about very quickly on Asphodel, what you do over there? And actually, I'm curious about the name Asphodel, and we'll put the link there in the episode, because this is where you can have more information about it.
Yes, thank you very much for the question, Carmine. Yes, Asphodel started in 2020 during COVID. Because I wanted to do something personally for sustainability and to tackle, let's say, the climate change somehow. After having being involved in other projects, I decided to put the hands on it, and I decided to fund it. Mainly, Asphodel is a community of beekeepers, expert beekeepers. We are now 4 in Sardinia that had the same values and the same dream, trying to protect the bees, not only like animal friends, let's say, but also because we know that the economy is a very important part of anything, and so trying to find an economical reason to protect bees. And that's why we started to talk together, to work together, trying to find ways that could make the beekeeping sustainable also in an economical ways. We decided to do this in Sardinia because it's still a very biodiversity friendly, let's say, place where pollution has not started to destroy the environment. And also we decided to do it here because we have very high level kind of honeys in the market, as I said, like rosemary, strawberry tree, asphodel itself. Because we thought that if we preserved the quality of the product and the bees, we could find some markets, important markets. And that's what is happening right in these days. I'm very happy to say that we found good clients from Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and now one in Switzerland that are keen to pay much more than what is paying in the market here in Italy. And this is helping us a lot because we are selling the product at the right price, I think, but this is sustaining also the existence of asphodel. The name come from asphodel itself, which is a plant that is very common here in Sardinia, and was the flower. It's a nice story. It's the flower that bloomed when Joseph, the husband of Mary. I'm a Christian, so that's why I decided to give this name. But is when Joseph was given the news that he could marry Mary, is a myth probably, but the flower of asphodel bloomed, and so everything started, like the life for Christians started to be there in their heart. So that's why I decided it's a plant that I love. It's a flower that blooms in February, March, so it's very resistant to cold temperatures, and it's very strong, very resilient, and the honey is very difficult to be produced in these last years because of these freezing temperatures in April, for example, what is happening in the last years. So I decided to give this name like a good wish for the company, being strong, be resilient, being also a good hope for for us, for the beekeepers, and for maybe for the people that believes in us as well.
No, that's a very good note, I think, to get to the end of our podcast. I mean, it's quite interesting that renewable energy, which is an artificial lever of sustainability, has the potential to help, the substances of bees, which is almost a natural lever of sustainability and biodiversity. That was a very interesting discussion, Maurizio. So thank you very much for helping us, understand some of these concepts, but as well as on behalf of our audience who's very keen on these topics, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this podcast.
No, thank you very much, guys. Wrishi, Carmine, it's a pleasure to talk about these topics, and really I thank you for this podcast, because I think it's so important to talk about these topics, and I hope that many people could listen to this kind of good communication for the future, the good future of the world. I think we need it. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And for all our audience, as you know, we are on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, and on YouTube. We have our LinkedIn page, which is called Sustainability Forward, the podcast, where you will see regular updates about our episodes. Make sure to follow, our page, as well as, recommend this podcast if you enjoy the content to your friends and family. So until the next episode, it's goodbye from me, Wrishi, and my co-host, Carmine.
Thank you, Wrishi.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurizio. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.